Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Well, it is the anniversary of Star Trek today, and I thought I had to make a video, and I thought I'll make some effort. I actually put on a uniform. Now, it's the JJ movies, because as much as they're basically action movies and not really Star Trek, I do think they had the best costumes and the best phaser, so I do have those. But I did have a bit of trouble deciding which one to wear, because I have a few. I have the three ordinary ones, and then there's two deluxe science ones from the movies. Then I have, I think, there's two or three or four custom ones that people made. And then there's the Anniversary one, which, if you look at the colour, looks nothing like you think it looks, but apparently it's screen accurate, so I've never worn it. And then, of course, I had to get the Beyond ones. So I've got the regular Beyond ones from Ruby's, which is where the other regular one's from. And I think that's the deluxe one from Ruby's in Science. And then I have a couple of custom ones for Science as well. So I just decided on this one, because even though it's not screen accurate, it's just my favourite because I like the material and I like the colour, and it looks how I remember it looking in the movie, not how it actually looked, what the actual material's like. And like I said, it's my favourite phaser, and that's some credit I will give the JJ movies. And I'll also give Discovery props for the props. They were gorgeous. Unfortunately, they were the only good thing about the show. Okay, so it's interesting. I celebrate the anniversary of Star Trek every year, as most Star Trek fans do. But this year, Alex Kurtzman and CBS decided to set up their own Star Trek Day. And although it did was announced as being a celebration of all Star Trek, it did make some interesting exclusions. And I mentioned this in another video, but I didn't know how much drama there actually was with that, because I didn't notice in the ad, the print ad and the actual like little commercial video ad, there were no Kelvin characters or anything. I didn't look at it that closely, and I didn't actually notice they were missing. So that's very petty, because you know, they've got the two separate licenses between the film and the films from Paramount and CBS, and apparently they're not playing together. Just like for the 50th anniversary, they botched that because neither team were going to support the other side, because they both consider themselves competing licenses, and it was just a mess, and it was really wasted. So there was some more of that, and William Shatner pointed that out. He said, I suppose, like, when are the JJ films celebrated? Do they get celebrated on a different day in the Kelvin timeline? And he was questioning where he was on his poster, and he said, oh, there I am, pointing out how small he was, and then he removed it and said, let's just make one small change, Alex Kurtzman. So he was having a dig at CBS All Access, which the first one about, oh, there I am, was directed to, and the second tweet was directed directly at Kurtzman. So Shatner's not happy, and he's not afraid to make it public. So I didn't realise how much drama there was going on there. Marina Sirtis also made her comment in that. And some people are suggesting she wasn't invited because she has criticised, because she's very forward. She's pretty blunt, actually. And she made a few comments about the new series and that. And they're very much for or against. If not for us, you're the enemy. It's like, because they have kind of divided the Star Trek. The fan base is divided now because of the new fans and the old fans, and it's kind of like the Star Trek versus Star Wars thing from the 70s and the 80s just sort of transferred to within Star Trek now. And now you've got the new Trek versus old Trek, or real Trek versus new Trek, or Trekkies versus Trekkies, or whatever you want to call Trekkers. Once upon a time you couldn't say Trekkers, you could only say Trekkies, and now people are saying Drekkies, and people are saying you can't say that, that's offensive, and it's a mess. It's a huge mess. So trying to celebrate Star Trek when everyone hates each other, or at least can't agree on what Star Trek is, or what Star Trek should be, or it's a bit of a mess. But I'm doing my best to celebrate it. Did I miss anything from that? There's something else. This was mostly on Twitter. Oh, there's also the thing where William Shatner was pointing out, I want to say Picard there, William Shatner was pointing out that that he basically, there's no one really representing the original Star Trek, just George Takei. And someone was saying to him, oh, it's a crime you're not being included, basically. And he said, well, they've got George Takei and Will Wheaton, that should, cover everything. Which obviously is a dig at them. And, Shatner, he's a bitch. I mean, he is. He's good at it for the most part, but he's a bitch. I've met him in person. He's a horrible person. My experience, he was horrible and I was rude back to him. And it's a story, but I would rather have had a nice story. But I'll tell that one day. Yeah, so that was interesting. I didn't notice how much drama there was around that when I did my other video, so I wanted to throw that in. And this episode's a bit of a hodgepodge, but I'm trying to think, how do we celebrate Star Trek on the anniversary? What do I do? No one asked, no one cares, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Usually it's obviously TV marathons. That's where Star Trek's main home is, so I usually do that. I had the bright idea a few years ago on the 40th anniversary to watch every episode of Star Trek from the anniversary, 40th anniversary of every single episode. So I started watching, and I watched all 3 seasons of the original Star Trek roughly on the dates they're supposed to be watched. I sort of forgot one here and there, or got the day wrong, forgot, Star Trek today. I basically did the marathon. And then a year into that, though, it was the 20th anniversary of Next Generation. So I'd started doing Next Generation like that as well. And I did the whole series. So that took me until, 2004 or something? I'm losing track. What year was it? I don't know. Either way, it took 7 years to do it. And I got into Deep Space Nine, but when I was just left with just Deep Space Nine, I just lost track and I didn't finish Deep Space Nine. I got into, I think, the 2nd season of Deep Space Nine, or maybe the 3rd season of Deep Space Nine, and I didn't finish it and Voyager. So I thought, well, for the 50th anniversary, I'll do the same thing. And I didn't end up doing it because I had a bit of a life and I didn't have enough time, and I'd work, so I had stuff to do, and I'm just like, I don't have time to really do it, so I didn't do it. But I kind of want to do it now because coronavirus, I'm stuck at home, working from home, barely casual anyway, so I have the time now. So I'm definitely going to do all 3 seasons of the original Star Trek. The last time I marathoned it was when the remastered came out. I loved it so much. I watched the whole season for season 1, because for the longest time we just had season 1 on DVD and not Blu-ray, HD DVD. That was how it was released originally, and I just watched the DVD side of the double-sided disc. If anyone remembers how that was released back in the day, when the war between Blu-ray and HD was on, and I watched that season pretty much every weekend for the first month it was released. I watched it every weekend, every episode, because I was so in love with the new special effects and the fact that they didn't pull me out of Star Trek like the original ones kind of did, and I just was kind of used to it and was unconscious to it. So I started watching them, and then when the other seasons came out on DVD, I kind of did like a marathon of season 1 and season 2 when season 2 came out, and then season 1, 2 and 3 when season 3 came out, and those are the last marathons I really did. I watched the remastered Next Generation each year as they came out each season. I watched them. I did like a weekend marathon of them. And then I haven't really done any marathons since. I put together some of my favourite episodes, thinking I would just do like my favourite like nebula episodes where they're like lost in some dark sort of, there's always those sort of episodes. I try to put them into themes, and so, because it's 800 or so episodes now. It's too much to do unless you've got literally a couple of months, or a lot longer if you want to just do evenings or something like that. So, and I don't have that much time. I just don't. Doesn't matter how I schedule, how I do things. Doesn't matter if I have them in the background while I'm working or doing other stuff. I can't do it. So my dream would be to watch every episode of Star Trek and never have to leave the house and just do that. But no one in the real world can do that. So no marathons for me. But what I am doing and what I'm going to try and catch up on is my reading. Because I got to yesterday, perfect timing. I'm so excited. I love Star Trek the Motion Picture. It's my favourite Star Trek of all, I think. I probably like it more in some ways than any of the original series episodes, although it's not as fun. I mean, we admit it, but it's just so beautiful. I can just look at the effects and look at the visuals. I can just get lost in them forever. I've seen it on the big screen a couple of times. Very happy about that. There is some rumour of them doing a special, an actual HD release of the Director's Edition, which had a few issues, and I'm hoping they fix them. But so I'm going to probably read this, and there's a few others I want to have a look at. I also got this, which is just cute, if anyone's seen it. I'm probably going to do videos of these, just looking through them, so anyone who doesn't have them and is thinking of getting them can see exactly what's in them, because I love it when people do that. And then, of course, there's this one, which is very interesting. I was a little disappointed by the Blu-ray, which I also don't really remember. I know I watched it when I bought it, but I don't remember a lot, because I just remember being disappointed by the deleted scenes that were sort of, the whole thing was sold on. But I'm going to actually read that book at some point. So I've got a whole bunch of books I've bought recently that I just have not had the time to read. I'm going to try and read them instead of doing a marathon. So this is The Art of the Star Trek Kelvin Timeline films. And there was also, oh god, they're all so heavy, An Art of the Film, which is just the first film. And of course there was the costumes, which I actually got to help me try and work out how accurate the custom ones were, because I was having a nightmare of a time trying to get a costume ready for the 50th anniversary ball with the local Star Trek fan club in Australia. We have Austrac, which is the second oldest Star Trek fan club in the world. I'm very proud of that as an Australian. And they were started 10 years after the original Star Trek, so they're 40 years old when Star Trek's 50 years old. And they had a big ball, and I didn't end up going because of all the rubbish with CBS and gatekeeping, and the people who run the club now are pretty much shills, and you can't talk about anything other than CBS or JJ Kelvin stuff, and they don't allow anyone to speak in the meetings, and it's a bit of a dictatorship, and it's really... I ended up buying all these uniforms. I bought all these shopping to get the right uniform for the ball, and didn't end up going because I was basically also told I couldn't go if I didn't wear an official Star Trek uniform. And I wanted to wear this one, not one of the bought ones, because the bought ones didn't look as good as this one. So that was a nightmare. There's a few other things. Sometimes you end up with old books you just don't end up reading, and I've got a whole bunch of them. Like this one I really wanted to read for years. It's all about the making of the original films. I haven't gotten around to it. And then of course there's some fiction, because I have all three of these, which I still haven't read, which are the original comics that were printed in the UK, various comics, because they do comics differently there if you're in the US. You should get these. These are gorgeous. I mean, they're like watercolour artwork, not like regular American printing of comics, so they're great. And there's also some other random stuff like this. I've always wanted to read this. I've had it forever. It's a reprint of the first novel ever made of Star Trek, and it's got little pictures, and it's just awesome. And I still, after all these years, have just not read it. So I'm going to focus on reading all the books I haven't read from Star Trek, as opposed to watching the episodes again, and just try and watch my favourites. Because sometimes when you've got that many and you try and marathon them all, it's a bit painful. And I'm going to do a separate video about what Star Trek means to me, because there is a little hashtag for today, and they're sort of doing a thing. They might include your video in with something, and I thought, you know what, I've wanted to do a video like that for a while. I think I will. Yep, so I've got a lot of props today, but I just wanted to share what I do to celebrate Star Trek, and I'm kind of curious what other people do. I'd love for people to tell me what they do and get a few messages, but it's a bit fickle, you know, if you get many views or if you get many comments. But I'm going to be paying attention to that, because a lot of people are saying, I don't celebrate Star Trek anymore, Star Trek's dead, blah blah. I'm like, well, yes, currently Star Trek is dead, there's no Star Trek being produced, but we still have all the old episodes, and there were huge gaps in the past where we had no Star Trek, and people still watch Star Trek. Just because there's problems with the current productions doesn't mean we can't enjoy old Star Trek. And yep, so I'm just going to leave it there. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think. Like I said, share your stories about how you celebrate Star Trek, if you still do. I'm going to go and try and decide which book to read first. Thanks, bye.